Was it a fluke? I don't know, but we just flowed so well. We bounced off of each other so well.
Mm-hmm.
I probably had one of the best matches of my career with Chris Wilde, and I think it got featured in an article somewhere. They said like these guys, like we've never seen them in a match before, but it's like it felt like they'd been fighting each other all their lives. Like the chemistry these two had was absolutely incredible, and I would love to fight Chris again.
Yeah,
I had a blinding match once with Damien. I've had a few matches with Damien. There's been some where, you know, either me or Damien didn't have the right amount of energy, but we've had some good matches. I've had some blinding matches with Jack Torino. As I've always said, Jack's like the Chris Jericho of British wrestling. He can have a good match with anyone, you know. Put a crash test dummy in there, he'll have a blinding match with it, you know. He's that naturally gifted. And there's been a couple of guys I've had some good matches with. I had some good matches with Taylor Essex, but the thing, me and Taylor, is we've never had a one-on-one. We've always been in triple threats, tag matches. And that's why this title match was going to be enjoyable, because it was the first time me and Taylor ever had like a decent one-on-one match.
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, we've worked in business together for a while now, and it was just nice to sort of see how it would have. And I had a good match, ironically, with Elisa Dawn.
Right.
Normally, I'll put it out there, intergender matches, they can be hit or miss. And we had a match, and me and Elisa Dawn go way, way back. Before even like she became a wrestler. Yeah. And we had this match, and it wasn't much involved in the match, but we got the crowd going so well. And I had these kids screaming at me. I had the parents throwing stuff. It was so fun. And we had this bit, and then obviously, you know, Alyssa was getting her licks in. They were going, come beat him up. He's a big buffoon. We want to see him. And stuff like that. And, there was points where the kids were running up to the ring, and I was scaring them back. And it was the audience that I think made that one. But we had a little match, you know, and I'll be quite happy to wrestle Alyssa again anyway.
Yeah, I mean that match as well with Taylor, I felt like the setup for it had been good as well. Like just on the DKW presentation because I'd been following it for a few months, I was like. It's like I could kind of see where it was going, but like in a good way, not like I thought, I already know the result. It was like it was all strategically going well, I felt like, storyline wise. So when it was kind of the announcement and you'd won the Rumble and everything, I thought, that's going to be a really good match. I can't wait to go and watch that. I definitely had that penciled in, and that was like, and it had kind of combinated from quite a few months, I felt like, of build towards it. And I know like you cut this really good promo after, which for anybody who hasn't seen, there's a video that's still available as well, where I've pieced together that overlapping the actual Rumble match. And it was a really good promo. I really enjoyed it at the end, because it kind of was really like gearing towards this big build, this big push for you and Taylor to finally get that match in. Because I think it had been like it had been a year or something where Taylor the year before had won it and whatnot, hadn't it? I think, or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
The Rumble, yeah. And yeah, that was gonna. I mean, I hope, you know, I know that at some point that will happen, but yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Obviously, just talking baby faces, heels. What is your preference in that? Have you got one, or do you kind of, you don't mind, or do you have a preference with the character?
Oh, always heel.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Always heel. I've always found what makes a good face a good villain. Yeah. And, you know, the one time I actually got over there was two times I ever got over as a face, was against Damien, because Damien is just phenomenal as a heel. Scares the life out of a lot of people. Yeah. And Jordan Saeed, he gave me a nice push for that. But as I said to people before, you know, when you've got a guy like me, in all the black, the intensity, the size, I'm a lot bigger than a lot of the guys on the circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got me coming out, and then I'm trying to be like happy and cheery, and then you've got a little tiny guy, and he's trying to be the meanie. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And I love winding up people, because I'm in reality, I've always found like I'm quite a nice guy. I'm always, I like to have fun with like people. And then Defrain, the character, is everything I wish I'd have said at the pub.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy like the villainous role, and as the saying goes, the devil gets the best lines.
Sure. And with that, like, because we've had like multiple guests on, we've been talking about it, and like just, I mean, you all know probably better than most, because you've kind of come from a sort of a different era as well with heels. Is that a lot of my guests that try to, they say they've dabbled at it, and they find it really hard because of social media to really stick being the heel character through and through, and apparently, they were saying they feel like it's a lot harder in today's society to be a really good villain, and it's almost got to the point where a villain sometimes, in cases, can be considered cool and be more cool than the actual baby faces that they're wrestling. Why do you think that's happened over the years? Is that just a society thing in general, or just because the business is so overexposed now that maybe, the more adult fans are going to watch it with different eyes? Is that what's happened, or do you think there's more to it?
Chicks dig bag boys, don't they?
There we go. He's wrapped it, guys.
When I did the interview for the Mirror, and they said, "You're the villain," I said, "Oh, the kids hate me, but the mums love me," and they do. I'll be backstage and we'll be signing autographs, and it was PC Chapman, and he had a match, and his mum turned around and said, "Oh, is Defrain going to wrestle? Because I want to watch his bum jiggle." Oh, I like. Mummy's go, "This is Mummy's favourite," to the kids, and they go, "I don't like him." The mum's like, "Mummy's favourite again."
Oh my god.
Like Austin and Rock were both heels, but everyone loved him because he was kicking like 2 tons out of the boss in like at the boss, didn't they? And it's like that whole counterculture and rebellion and stuff, so the heels got over more than the faces. And people say to me like, "Oh, who's your favourite comic book character?" And I say, "Well, it's Batman, isn't it?" They go, "Oh, but like Superman could do this," and Superman. I was like, "Yeah, but Superman's too chipper, he's too perfect. I like like more ruggish rogue type character, A lot of people do like the villain, and the villain can be more entertaining than the hero. Sometimes a hero can be quite bland, unless you've got a John McClane or something like that. McClane, and all that. But I think, social media does, because everyone knows nowadays. Kayfabe is a very loose used term now. You go back in the days of Sergeant Slaughter and stuff like that, people used to tip his car over and stuff like that. Like, he really went off and joined like the Iraqis and stuff like that. And, people really did think that the villains were evil, And sometimes it's weird because you get an audience. And I remember once I was wrestling in Plymouth, and it was funny enough, it was against Caleb Kane. And it's like you get this weird thing where you've got the little kids, they all believe it's real, the real users, because it's fantasy for them. It's fun. And they all believe it. And then you've got the mums and dads that know it's just all part of the show, what the game is. And then you've got these really old biddies who, for some reason, still think it's real.
Yeah.
And I've had grandparents come up to me before and smack me with a bag. Up to me, I should get my priorities sorted out. You're this. It was just gravy to me. it means I've done my job well, you know. I was over, you know, but then obviously there's other times where I'm coming in as the heel, and we did a show recently, and I think it wasn't against Devilman, because Devilman got over so well as a face. I mean, I was getting booed left, right, and centre, and Devilman was getting cheered. It was a blinding match. I think it was a DKW show, and I can't remember who I was facing, but then all of a sudden I was getting cheered, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Why are they cheering for me? And I'm doing like all the dirty stuff, low blowing, I'm chucking them out the ring, stamping on their fingers. They're cheering me for it.
Yeah.
It's, do you know what? I suppose it depends on the crowd. You know, it's one of those funny things. You know, they either like the bad guy or they hate him. You know, but you know, if they're booing you, it's good. If they're cheering you, it's good. It's required. That's
yeah.
And you know, laugh or cry. You know, you've done your job. But that's when you get that dead silence. That's when you've not done your job. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That silence is what will kill you. You know, that's what you don't want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a lot of my listeners, like a couple of years back, when and I know you said earlier that you don't often watch wrestling as much these days, but obviously Roman Reigns, there was this big part, obviously, where WWE had sort of essentially fans felt like he was being thrown down the neck a bit as being the next guy, and this is the man you need to cheer for. And obviously, most of my listeners on here, at least, pretty much were sort of regurgitating and spitting him back out. And the emails I used to get constantly was, why don't WWE turn him heel? Why don't they just do it? Nobody wants to see him as babyface. And my reply to them always was, there's no point, because if they do that, he'll suddenly be cheered. Because that's how it kind of went with The Rock for a little while. So I said, like, how he is now, he is the perfect heel, because look how you're reacting to him. So I was like, why would they? It would be ridiculous to change him, even if they wanted to do that with those intentions, because I know he would then become the cool bad guy, which is kind of what you kind of don't, you know, it plays into the other hand. So it's really hard, I think, for baby faces these days, I would say, more than maybe heels at sometimes, especially when the audience are smart enough to realise where and what they're trying to do and what they're giving you. And if it's not organic, it's almost like, no, we're not accepting that now. And I suppose back in the early times, it was a little bit easier, especially with, you know, not knowing as much. But here's a little bit of a shame. One of the guys I'm always drawn to, and the whole story, I think I spoke to you about this actually at the last event I was at with you at Triumph, was Andy Kaufman.
Yeah.
And we done like a whole episode on him, and we got really amazing feedback, because not many of my listeners kind of knew that much about Andy Kaufman. And to be honest with you, he's not really overspoken about in WWE either. He's not like unless you follow Jerry Lawler and that whole thing with Memphis, it's nothing that's really come about. I'm not too sure why, but I feel like now, if you wanted to be like a really unique kind of heel, I mean, can you imagine Andy Kaufman in today's society? How that would have gone down? Because he could just do layers. I mean, nobody knew if he was being serious or not, and he just lived that whole thing, didn't he? I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he had so many layers to that, and the way they pieced it together was almost just magical.
He was a funny guy, Kaufman. Well, they did the. I watched the documentary with Jim Carrey, because
yeah, that was cool.
Andy Kaufman,
yeah,
Man on the Moon, and he was winding Jerry Lawler up.
Yeah,
I think he even might have like taken a swing at.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and he said, like, me and Andy were friends, you know, but Carey being a method actor, in his head, like, Kaufman was not his friend, so he just kept picking him up. And thought, you know, what was Kaufman really like? Was he really? Is Jerry being serious? Were they actually? Because I remember seeing them on, was it the Tonight Show or something?
Yeah, the Letterman show,
Letterman.
which was fantastic. Yeah,
the stuff that Laura and Kaufman were coming out with. But then again,